I'm just going to introduce today's panelists. I'm excited to introduce today's panelists. They're great people. My name is Carlo Ziegler. Once again, I'm the development manager. These panelists here today, they're going to share their knowledge, thoughts, and tips on how we can protect our children and families in the digital age. The discussion will be led by Melissa Morgan over there, our Director of Communications. I'm going to be introducing them in no particular order. First, we have Alicia Coulter, MPH and MSW. Alicia is the CEO and co-founder of Advantage Healthcare Now, AHN, and the AHN Foundation. She is also a mother of 2 Long Beach Unified School District students and a partner with the Best Start Central Long Beach another Best Start Central Long Beach participatory budget project. Then we have Amber Vieira Mendoza. Amber is an anti-bias educator and an anti-bully facilitator who works with educators and students across the state. She is a mother of 2 daughters at the elementary level and is actively engaged in her children's school and community. We have Jackie Valley. Jackie is an educator who has received her master's in educational administration at California State University. ULB. Yes, CSULB. Go Beach. She is a community program specialist with the City of Long Beach and works at a local library in teen services. And then we have Tom Halstead. Tom is a technology specialist who spent the past 2 decades in the tech field in high school environments. He is a parent and also has daughters. He is very familiar with cybersecurity in the digital world, and we are grateful to have him support us with wiring and internet security at our nonprofit Long Beach Forward. And that's all I got for you. Thank you.
All right, we're having lovely tech challenges. So this is a great living example. I call these happy problems. I see myself, does it move? Okay. I see myself as a tech person. And here we are with new devices. This is an iPad. I don't know how to make this thing happen. I tried to make edits. Amber had screenshots from her iPhone. They were HEIC images, and you can't take an HEIC image, which is not a JPEG or PNG, into a slideshow. I was trying to put it in there, and then we realized there was a security safety issue, so now we don't even need the slides because their daughter's name's there. So it's just kind of a living example of technology today, but hey, we're trying. It's all happy accidents. So I want to share a little bit of background, some research that Angelica, our intern, and Rudy, one of our team members, did, just to share a little bit about the state of social media. In our communications team, a lot of our work at Long Beach Forward, we're all about building people power in the community. And particularly in the pandemic, we had to pivot to do that work online with social media, to engage people in change making and in having voice in changing the systems around them so that we can have a healthier Long Beach for people regardless of your race or your socioeconomic status. And so our communications team does a lot of work with social and with the internet. And we like to research the trends to know where should we be so that we can find people where they are. In January, this study for early in this year, this study came out of the world's most used social platforms. So Facebook across the world, what's this number? Does it say down there? Millions, thank you. You can see they are reigning supreme. Then we've got YouTube next, which YouTube is actually the most popular platform for young people today. Instead of them being on TV, I see this with both of my teenagers, they are on YouTube all day consuming information. And we'll talk a little bit about YouTube today and some of the protections as well as some of the risks there. Then you've got WhatsApp. I don't hear about as much. More in Europe. Instagram, big time. I see WeChat is there. TikTok's probably already moved up a little bit. I'm not sure. Facebook Messenger, that's interesting, was pulled out, etc. So you can see that obviously these platforms are highly used across the planet. If you look, I was in a restaurant yesterday, and we look to the left, there's people on their phones waiting to sit down and eat their breakfast. Look to the right, the devices are always there. And I'm sure you all notice that because you're here. Some statistics about each of these platforms. Let's see, what do I want to share with you? On the left, we have Twitter. Oh, whoa. Almost 6% of the earth use Twitter today. Ooh, that's freaky. Twitter's the most popular social media site for news. And, in the world of the concepts of fake news, and Twitter has changed a lot too, that there's a lot to be concerned about there on Twitter. And YouTube, it's the second largest search engine globally. What do you see?
30% of all people use YouTube on the whole earth.
Oh my God, there it is. Yeah. Look at that. Huge. Yeah. Oh, as of January of last year, YouTube users spent about 24 hours every month on the app. How many of you here use those settings on your phone to show you how often you're using, your devices? It's a really good tool for those of us who have kids in our life. TikTok on the left. Panelists, do you see anything that stands out for you? You all are the closest. This one here? Oh, this one. The world's most downloaded and highest earning non-game app. Oh, wow. My kids, between TikTok and what's the other one that's like it? I guess maybe Snapchat and Instagram. They're just, their attention span is this big because they're just constantly swiping. And some of the challenge with that I found as a parent is the device is so small, I can't just sit here, Tom, and be watching everything you're swiping, right? If he was my son, and it's no longer on the big screen TV, now it's very private, and they're in their bedroom, and they're on the couch, or they're at the dinner table, or they're in the bathroom. How many of you know people who take the phone to the bathroom? Might even be guilty of it. Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Generally, 9 in 10 internet users use social media every month. I feel like it would be more. 10 in 10. 44% of TikTok's users will be under 25 by 2023.
I want to disagree a little bit with that start. That only 2.5 hours every day.
Yeah. I wonder how old that is.
Yeah, that seems like low.
That seems very low.
It does seem low today.
That seems a low
This is
number.
from statusbrew.com. Yeah, curious how these may change ever so quickly. Did we see this? Instagram. More than half of Instagram's global population is younger than 35. Yeah, I feel like these numbers probably do change pretty quickly. I think the state of the world is everybody's using it. Everyone's doing it, especially our young people and even our youngest. Someone was telling me about their infant and how their infant's already learned, infant toddler has already learned how to FaceTime people on the phone, on mom's phone.
So, Melissa, I see people that will use their iPad or their phone as a way to stop their child from crying, which is very, it's just very dangerous.
Instead of a pacifier, take the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The phone
absolutely.
has become the pacifier for sure.
Yep. So we do use social media, though, to make change. So we're not saying everything. I do have a bit of an ethical challenge because we use it as a tool to communicate with the world, and it does feel a little dirty sometimes. But we do know it's a tool in raising voice in movements like Me Too, Black Lives Matter, March for Our Lives. I know, Jackie, you've been a leader in some of that work here locally. And so we do utilize this as a tool to engage people in a way that generations never have been able to do it before. A little bit about YouTube for Kids that I would share is, I thought this was interesting in an article from commonsensemedia.org, that it's mostly safe, but there's a small chance that kids could see nudity, violence, or just weird stuff, as well as ads for stuff like junk food, and that a third of videos watched by kids who are 8 and under are really intended for older audiences. However, there are some built-in structures for parents to be able to filter out some of that content. And we'll share these slides with you all as a follow-up email if you want to look at this. And so there are some ways to create parental controls on YouTube Kids, which is different than YouTube. By logging in, you'll have to have a Google account, and then you can log in with it and then create some passcodes that it would allow. You can have up to 8 kids on accounts that you can moderate and determine the age content. So there are some ways, but it's not perfected is the thing. It's not perfected. Okay, so just wanted to lay the groundwork there for that. And I think you all will have to share since I'm going to have to ask questions. So here we go. Let's talk a little bit about our social media experiences. I am going to look over your shoulder, Jackie. This cord doesn't go so far. So I'd love to know, what do you all love about the internet and digital devices? And then how do you think that'll benefit youth in our future? What are your hopes? Let's start with the positive. What do you love about the internet? Can we start with Amber?
That worked out. For me, the first thing that came to mind with that is I have a 5th grader. And I don't know about you all, but when I went to 5th grade, it's different learning than what my 5th grader's learning now. It's so much more advanced with Common Core, and it's like talking a completely different language for me. So sometimes my daughter comes home with homework. My daughter goes to dual immersion school, so it's English and Spanish. And sometimes I can't understand a certain math equation or a certain reading comprehension thing, and we have to look it up. And so that's the only way I can learn how to show her how to do it. And so we do use the internet sometimes for educational purposes to be able to find a solution or how to work a problem, or how I can further explain to her so she can understand and learn and do the homework correctly.
Oh, for me, I love to be able to connect with people that are not near me. So I have a daughter that is in college, and we FaceTime or we text in the middle of the night, and I'm able to connect with her. I'm able to watch her on Life 360 to see, for those of you that know, this is a GPS on your phone. So you're able to, as long as you're holding that phone near you, it tracks where you are. And so I'm able to track her whereabouts. So for me, that's something that I do love about the internet and digital devices. The connection.
I think my favorite thing is the ability to access all of the information in the world at this little device in your hand. That's an awesome thing to do. I hope it stays neutral for the rest of us. You know, that net neutrality is a big issue, that once companies start getting into it, then it becomes paid to get information, and it can't be that way. And my hopes are that it continues to stay neutral and unbiased, that you can find those true information out there without other people's opinions.
Yeah, well, full disclosure, I use the internet and social media heavily, and I have to moderate myself. And I am a parent also. I didn't put that in my biography. That was bad. I have a 25-year-old and a 22-year-old. So they actually were coming of age right at the very beginning of getting mobile phones to everybody. They're right on the cusp of that. So I feel almost lucky that they didn't get fully plugged into it because they were already like in middle school, sort of. But I wish I could go back and change decisions I made now with the hindsight. But I love the educational equity that it can provide if it's used properly, if we use it safely, the access to information for students everywhere, no matter what. And a big part of that, that our government is addressing a little bit now, is to the equity and access to internet services with the broadband program. I think you were going to talk about that, getting access to free broadband, things like that. But I think that the equity that it can provide, if we use it in a smart way and make sure that we have neutrality, there's so many benefits to that. And as a teacher, working in the library, that's been a really an excellent resource for us.
So when did you all, let's see a show of hands here. When did you all get your first phone? Were you, mobile phone, were you in your teens? Anyone?
Are you talking about a smartphone or
Any
like a
kind
regular?
of uncorded mobile device that you could take with you? No cords, internet. About 2 hands. Okay. Wow, 20s? Yeah, 20s for me.
I think 30s.
30s? Okay, yeah, all right. 40s? Okay, 50s? Okay, interesting. Imagine if we have a younger audience in here. I was at an event the other day in an auditorium having a panel discussion, and half the kids' heads were like this in the audience because they were on their devices, and it was at Saturday school at that. That was fascinating. So for you all, when did you get your first device, and how about your kids, and why?
So for me, I got my first, I want to say it was a Motorola, for those who remember that. I was in my 20s, and I still have the same phone number, by the way. So I don't know why, but I still was able to maintain that phone number. First iPad, maybe 5 years ago. I have a 11-year-old and a 9-year-old. They do not have phones, and it's kind of a joke in our house, but it's the truth. I've told them that when they turn 18, they will get a smartphone. And my 11-year-old, when she turned 10, she was so excited and said, I only have 8 years left. That's right. You only have 8 years left. So a few of their friends have phones.
Faces in the audience?
Yeah. Like I want to say a week ago, my oldest said, well, what if I like save my money and I earn it? I go, that's fine, but you have to pay for insurance. You have to pay for data. I went down the list. She goes, oh no, I'll just wait till I'm 18. Great. So I realized she's only in 5th grade. She's going to middle school next year. We have at our elementary school, I've seen 2nd graders with phones.
Oh, yeah.
Like full blown, like brand new iPhones. Another one is the watches. I've seen not just Apple watches, but there's other kind of watches. And so I've had this conversation with both of them. I've been very candid with them, letting them know, like, if you're not with me, you're with another adult that has access to me and to your father, and you don't need a phone. There's no need for that. If it ever gets down to that point, my husband and I have had this agreement for a very long time. They're getting a flip phone. There's no reason they need a smartphone. If you need to get in touch with me, you know the phone number. You don't need to be texting. You don't need to be on social media. So that's the rule. They got their first own iPads this last Hanukkah. And we have very strict, that's why I printed that all out. But we set all the parent controls. We have passcodes for everything, time limits on how long they can be on what app and how long. And so we've been very restrictive on that, but also had very open conversations, especially around YouTube, because there's times where we need to go on YouTube for things, and a couple of things have popped up, or my oldest daughter gets distracted and she's looking at, they're watching other kids play. I'm like, oh my gosh. Why are you watching someone else play? Well, I want to learn how they're playing this. I'm like, okay. So it's a conversation. So we sit down and talk about it so that they understand what our concerns are. My husband and I have had conversations with them about safety, and and we've been very candid with them. There's people out there that are looking for you, and you need to be mindful of who you talk to, who they are. Minecraft and Roblox are like big with the kids still, I guess, at least my kids. I want to know every single person that you're talking to and what conversations you're having. And I'll look through the iPad literally with her in front of me, and my daughters understand that that's just our family norm. So it's common, normal conversation. If they have questions, I'll answer it. But they know that we're gonna look through everything because it's a common thing.
I don't know. I was 20 something. I don't remember, but it was not a smartphone. And my first tablet, I'm a techie, so I got the first generation iPad. So whenever that came out, that's when I got my first tablet. My kids, so I have a 20-year-old, an 18-year-old, and a 17-year-old. And they used to ride the bus. They used to go to Valley Christian Elementary and Middle School, and they would ride the bus. So they had smartphones. Well, my oldest had the smartphone because if one of them has a phone, then all of them have phones. And because I need to call, text, where are you? Okay, I'm 5 minutes away, or I'm at the bus stop waiting for you guys. Look for me here. So they had their phones for that, but when they got home, we would take the phones. By the time, gosh, what grade were they in? I would say probably by the time they collectively, because they're so close in age, everything merges together. So I want to say probably by the time they were in middle school, ish, maybe the youngest one was in like 5th grade, 6th grade, they had phones. But we have the parental guidance. And my thought process was, I want to teach you how to use the phone effectively and what it's made for. And so, of course, there's trial and error with that, right? And when they're young, you want the trial and error to happen in hopes that when they get out your face, they're on the straight and narrow. That's the hope, right? What device do they gravitate towards most? So everybody has a watch. Well, my oldest does not have a watch, but they have a watch. They have a phone. My oldest and my youngest both have MacBooks. And my 18-year-old, I don't like calling her my middle child because there's just so much stigma centered around that. So my 18-year-old, I call her my little big, but that's my nickname for her. My 18-year-old, she has an iPad because she draws. So they gravitate, I would say all three of them collectively gravitate towards their phone, because my oldest is an artist as well. So she does commissions. So she's on Twitter getting business. So she gets a lot of her business from people on Twitter, having her do commissions for them. My baby, I don't know. She kind of is, it depends. She's my academic. So she'll go on her MacBook and do homework and then have YouTube on, watching someone play a game on her phone. I still don't get that concept. They've explained it to me. I'm like, but you have a video game. Why do you have to watch someone else play Mario Kart? I don't understand. But, to each its own. If that's fun to you, enjoy. And I will say this, just as a parent, I'm too close now. As a parent, you have to determine what's best for your child. When it comes to technology, we have a lot of trial and error that has happened. Those of us with older kids that have had access to technology, we had to learn with no instruction. We didn't have these types of classes. We didn't have this type of information or informationals. So we really had to learn by trial and error. We did not have the same technology that buffered the system, meaning technology that would allow you to lock down technology. We didn't have that back in, 2010. That was not an option. Or 2012. Those security features are really getting robust now. So I say you all that have small children, you're in a good space. I would just encourage you not to use technology as the pacifier, and look at what studies are saying, what happens to the brain when technology is introduced too young.
I was 18 or 19 and it was a Nokia, whatever. It was really,
Was it the cute one or was it the...
It was the brick. It wasn't
brick.
cute. It was
Yeah.
very bricky. You could drop, that was a phone you could drop a million times. It would still work no matter what you did to it. So I have fond memories of that phone and it lasted years. How about my child 6? She does not have a phone, thank God. She does have an iPad that we keep in our room. She gets to use it for little things here and there, just as an award, not as a pacifier. We try not to, again, trial and error. You try not to learn. You learn from doing things, and you don't want it to become that's all she wants to do. You guys have mentioned the videos of playing video games. I don't understand why the kids like to watch the videos of unboxing toys. Those ones are weird.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. I'm luckily at the very beginning of it, so we'll have a lot of trial and errors in the future for sure. But one thing we've learned is to limit that time and make sure she's healthy with it and doesn't get upset when we take it away.
Let's see. I think it was when I was working, my first phone I was working at 61st Street Elementary School in Los Angeles. I was teaching first grade there. And I think it was when I was pregnant and we finally got the brick kind of cell phone. And I was like afraid to use it even, and I thought I shouldn't use it just for regular calls. Like I would like reserve it just for special emergencies. It was so funny. And let's see, and like I said, my children, I want to say my son was, I think, middle school, and then we gave my daughter one like probably maybe 5th grade, but they were still flip phones. They weren't smartphones. So they quickly learned to do the texting with the 3 taps on each letter, or a number to get the right letter. You know, for the C, you had to do 111 or whatever, whatever it was. And I really think that because they didn't have smartphones, they didn't get locked into it. Now, my son never really even do social media, except schools kind of require you to set up social media when you're in college to be parts of study groups or whatever they are. My daughter does. She uses social media a lot now, but she's pretty smart about it, I think. But it's so consuming. I think the reason kids want to see the videos of the gaming or unboxing, I think they're shared experiences. And I think that all of us, kids, adults, any age, we our human species want to be part of groups, right? And especially now that we're feeling disconnected, that was exacerbated by the pandemic, using social media is sort of a paradoxical way of getting more connected with other people and yet being disconnected in a real way. And so that's what they say is the problem that a lot of kids are facing now. So many girls, you heard, are facing depression and anxiety and thought of ending their lives. It's because one theory is that social media and phones became very prevalent in about 2012, I think. And since then, even before the pandemic, all the levels of anxiety and depression were rising in children. And it is disconnecting them from their peers. It's an unreal connection. And they're losing the social skills to interact in person. And as humans, that's what we do as our species. That's why we're here in this room together. We don't need to be here together to learn this information, but we want to be together. And so I think it's something that we have to really look at very closely and make sure that we are modeling ourselves good practices because they're watching everything that we do.
Oh, yeah. That's huge. Great. All right, let's talk about some scary stuff. What has been your scariest experience with the internet or digital device that actually taught you a lesson? Do you have something, Jackie, in mind?
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
This happened maybe 10 years ago. Although my son did not use social media or a phone very heavily, he is a gamer. And so he would play the massive online games where people can, like Minecraft. There's lots of other ones. And and then they would talk. All the people chat. There's a little chat box that they talk while they're playing their game. And it is a huge community, and they feel kinship with these people because they have interest in the game together. But they're all different ages. There's no limit on who can participate. But so nothing very terrible happened to my son, except that he would learn about these places that he thought it was no big deal on the internet, that he could go and download movies and watch things that probably were copyright infringement or who knows what he saw on there. And we got a letter in the mail from, we have Charter, at the time it was called Charter Spectrum Internet, and they were going to come after us legally. This happened, I don't know if you remember, people started getting charged and fined, or even, I think there was a mom that was like sentenced to prison for something because people were downloading things illegally on the internet. And they were starting to do enforcement, and I was scared to death that they were going to come to our house and arrest my son or charge us a huge fine. And we were much more involved after that. That scared me to death. And that wasn't even that bad of a thing. I think there's far worse dangers out there that we have to be mindful of, unfortunately.
I'm sitting here. I can't really think anything scary happened. You know, my kids play Minecraft. Well, they used to, but they don't talk to the people. And if they do, it's like they've had their friend meet them in that room that they're in, and they're talking to their friends. But they don't really. My kids are really. They police themselves very well because of them seeing what has happened to other kids. So I can't really say anything scary has happened. I can't attest to that.
This is interesting that we're having this discussion now because I just talked to my best friend 2 days ago, and she has a boy who's 8 now, and her and her husband, who's another good friend of ours, have always been very, I'll put out there, very laxed with their son and using the iPad as a pacifier because he's an only child. Here, just go do this. Here it goes. And they would, since he was very, very little. And her and I've had conversations about the safety of all this. I want to say 2 years back, she had mentioned to me that they found that he was seeing pictures of women with like bras on, basically. And that they found that on his iPad and were very concerned or whatever. Okay, so this has been like an ongoing issue of his access to everything and anything. And a few days ago, she called me and told me that they found out that he has probably seen inappropriate sexual behavior on the internet and has tried to mimic that. And I'm like, I'm still sitting here in shock. It's been 2 days and I'm trying to process that, but he's only 8.
Yeah.
And so to me, that like threw my alarm bells off again about my daughters. Going back on what you said, Jackie, about especially young women and girls being exposed so young to social media and to those pressures and that whole aspect of depression and self-harm and so forth and sexualizing and so forth. So that scared the bejeebies out of me. So I guess the lesson for me is to be, even though I'm very vigilant, be even more vigilant about what my children see. Including, I don't know if you're going to show it, but one of the conversations I had with my daughter about YouTube is you could be punching in like dolls and you put in the wrong letter or the wrong anything next to it, and you're going to see stuff that you should not be seeing. So that's the danger. And we've had these conversations.
I don't necessarily have one that I've experienced, but digital trackers scare me. The Apple tags are one of the things that are really dangerous, not only for the people. I mean, they have their legitimate purposes, but they are very much used in illegitimate ways. They've used to be track people, steal cars, and other stuff. So that kind of technology scares me in the fact that you never know who's watching you or who has information on you. So that's something I worry about.
So the you're talking about the tags that can go with your keychain.
Yeah, the little keychains that they can use to steal your car when you're not looking.
If you have something that pops up on your phone that says you activate your tag, completely deactivate that.
Oh, I never had that.
Don't. I mean, be thankful, but some people, and they'll just say, "Oh," and they'll ignore it.
Right.
So you can't ignore that. It'll say like, "Oh, activate your," like kind of like with any Apple message when you get a new device and it pops up and so it'll open up a window telling you to activate it. You don't want to activate it onto your phone.
Or that there's an AirTag near you.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Wow. So we're going to watch a quick clip about ElsaGate. If you haven't heard of it, you can now say you have.
Check this out, new at 4 o'clock. Sex, drugs, and scary videos on a popular children's app. Inappropriate videos have infiltrated YouTube Kids, often showing popular children's characters in violent and even sexual scenarios. And we've learned there is little being done about it. It looks like the frosty blonde Disney character, but this is not Elsa.
You are so hot.
The animation is so exact, a toddler would not know the difference. But it's an online trend that's shocking both kids and parents.
When I had put something on the screen, it was Elsa and Anna. And I came in to see what I was hearing, and it was Elsa delivering a baby for Anna.
Hi, Papa.
Totally inappropriate. I mean, it was like, she was on a table, legs spread.
Horrified, Jennifer McLean did some digging and found more than she ever wanted to see. Sexual content, drug use, violence.
A lot of the videos seem to start off as very kid-friendly and then all of a sudden just turn into something very inappropriate.
It's okay, we don't mean you any harm.
Chrissy Campilio hands her daughter Maddie the iPad when she needs 5 minutes to get things done. She uses an app designated for kids and sets content restrictions for preschool age only.
And I thought, what are you crying at? Well, they're hurting Papa Pig. Okay, so I turned around and I saw adult hands with Peppa Pig toys, and they were chopping the heads off with Peppa Pig. So that was it for me.
Maddie fell into a trap that child predators meticulously crafted. The disturbing video in the suggested next video cue follows a normal, harmless video. One click, and it's down the rabbit hole. Video suggestions after that growing more and more deranged. It's being dubbed ElsaGate, but no law enforcement agency is investigating who's behind these videos or why they're being uploaded by the hundreds every day. Because unless a child is directly enticed, it's not against the law. Child psychology expert Dr. Sharon Gordetsky says this kind of material affects kids in different ways, but children risk being numbed to violence, and they can end up reenacting what they see.
And so I think the biggest impact is going to be confusion. Like, I'm expecting one thing, I'm used to one thing, and now it doesn't make sense. It's unfamiliar, and things that are unfamiliar are confusing and cause anxiety.
It's disturbing, to say the least, and the experts say that the people who are behind those videos have at least one clear intention, and it's to deceive kids and their parents. Now, YouTube says that they have updated their policies, and they are aggressively enforcing them in order to protect children.
The people behind those are disturbed.
Deranged.
Yeah, and I actually deleted the YouTube app from the iPad so my child wouldn't get on it, and I thought YouTube Kids was safe. This is scary.
So did I.
Yeah, all right.
Slide. Go ahead, Alicia.
I probably have a different viewpoint, but I don't think that we should put the controls in the hands of the people that develop the software or the technology. As parents, we're responsible for our children, and technology is made for adults. Adults then have to police what their children have access to. So I know we want, these companies to do more, and I think that they should. I don't think, though, that we should hold them accountable. That is our job as parents, and making sure that what we want our kids to see and not see is what's accessible to them or not accessible to them. Because some parents don't mind their kids seeing ElsaGate or what have you. Some parents, they don't mind any of it. Whereas there's other parents that want a more stringent environment. I do think there is a happy medium you have to find what that happy medium is for you and your family.
I agree very much with that. I think we've said it many times already today. It's all about making sure you're having those conversations all the time. There was something good on the commonsensemedia.org website that I saw. They compare it, how you interact with your children with this kind of media to, like, imagine if it was your child, say a 5-year-old, and you're going to the park. You wouldn't just sit outside the park and say, okay, go ahead. I don't care who you talk to, just go play someplace. You wouldn't let a 5-year-old just go anywhere without you watching what they were doing. Same thing on the internet. You need to watch what they're doing and interact with them. And it needs to be something that is not an isolated experience. And hopefully for our teens and young adults, like you said, I think Melissa said you can't always know what your son's doing. Yeah, but maybe if you've had the right conversations and they understand the dangers and you have a good working relationship, hopefully they're making the decisions on their own then.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they're not going to be in our nest forever.
Right.
Like I said, I'd rather my kids make the mistakes while they're with me than I leave them free and then,
Different consequences.
So we're going to talk about childproofing the internet and just some of the ways that you all model. I think it's called like internet hygiene around young people. There's probably some other word.
I like
the
that.
way how you observe or get involved with your kids' digital devices. You've talked a lot about being parent-led, Alicia. Here's some information on internet safety. Some FAQs. It's estimated that there are around 500,000 active predators on the internet every day, and the numbers are on the rise. Kids spend more and more time online. They have been, especially since COVID, and has been their new norm of being digital natives, and just how immersed they've been in the digital world because school was online, or for some kids, kindergarten. Amber, your kids were in elementary school, and you had to, I remember seeing the pictures of you at home and teaching, being part of teaching your kids through their school experience during COVID. So yeah, parents, we have to be more vigilant. And how old are these online predators? Anyone from 18 and up, they're out there. In our past series on Zoom, we've brought in a guy named Patrick, I think Erlinson, who created FatherCon. He's with the Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force and has been talking with dads about how important it is for dads to understand this world, the state of the world today, to make sure that you are engaged with your kids and helping them to understand what can happen with online predators and sex trafficking. And then who's the most common victim of online predators? According to the FBI, kids between the age of 12 and 15. I've actually seen some bus signs in Long Beach recently that show that too, that it's that range of kids who are the most susceptible to being to predators on the internet, and most of them are girls.
I was going to say, because that is the age when girls are going through that I hate my mom. I mean, realistically speaking, and it may not be as far as hate, but they want that's when they're starting to feel that independence, and they get frustrated, and someone comes to them and makes them feel so good about themselves and says, meet me at Starbucks. And there we go.
Yeah. So next slide, please. We'll talk about some of these topics now with you all about how to childproof our internet, checking for safety. Amber, you have some thoughts on how to make sure your platforms are safe, being wary of strangers, not sharing things that should be private. Tell us, folks, what are some ways that you model good internet behavior, and how do you interact with your kids around good electronic behavior? Amber?
So for me, I tried to print this up, and like Melissa mentioned, I said the slides to her, but my daughter's name is under Social Security. But on their iPads, when we got them this last December, my husband and I set it up so that there's a passcode if they want to purchase any apps, if they want to extend their time, because we have time limits on it. Recently, to help curtail the amount of consumption that they take on the iPad, I created, instead of a chore chart, it's not a reward chart. So when they do certain things, they earn 5 minutes for each little whatever cube. So like this morning before I came here, I added up what they did all week, and I said, hey, guess what? You have 3 hours all weekend. They were excited. I'm like, that's a win for me. But I wanted to, if you don't know, I think that's easier. If you don't know how to limit their screen time, or how to where to look to be able to limit what apps they use and how long they can use each app. I'll show you the slides afterwards because it's hard for you to see it from here. But that's how we monitor that, and then we continue that conversation about safety and yeah.
Yeah. Tom, I hear that you use some apps at home or some kind of some tool to protect the kids. What are they? We've listed up some of the quote unquote best apps we found on the internet for 2023. What's your advice, Tom?
Just to be vigilant. Some of the devices I have is one that actually gets rid of most ads before they actually come in my house. So it eliminates the ability to see those ads, and inappropriate ads do pop up. That's one device. When I do hack over my phone, it's locked down. I have an app on there that'll control. It can only open certain apps. So when I give it, if she needs my device for whatever reason, I just lock it down so she can only have access to 2 apps. She likes to look at photos of us and take pictures. So usually that's what she does. So being 6, thank God, that's all she likes to do. But is this, screen time limits too? We have that as well. She gets an hour. And then she has to ask for more time, so.
Is that like a hard stop, or is it like you
The device turns off.
Yeah, it's a hard stop. So it's set up in the iPad, whereas when the hour is up, you can no longer use it. She has to ask for more time. And you can either grant or not grant.
So it says your time's done, and those apps literally cloud out, and you can't access them. And a little window will pop up. Do you want more time? You need to ask for permission. They click yes, and then the parent or whoever set up gets the notification they want more time. And you can do 15 minutes, you can do an hour, or like all day.
There is also other ways of you can block stuff through your router too. That's a little bit more involved, but that way when they do go onto the internet through Safari or through whatever, they can't get to certain websites, so they can't find a backdoor. And trust me, kids will find ways around the rules you have set, and the limitations you have set. So if you can just prevent it altogether, it's a really good thing to do. Through the router, there is a thing called a blacklist, and it lists all the websites that they cannot go to. You can block any website you'd like, Facebook if they for that week or whatever.
Can I share something really quick? Had this conversation yesterday with a group of parents, and they shared that a friend of her 6-year-old, they gave her iPad and didn't put any parameters on it, and they got a bill for $6,000 from apps from Apple.
Oh, yeah.
And they couldn't understand why. And of course, the little girl was sitting there just purchasing. So they thought they put parental restrictions on it for the following month, $3,000, because at 6, she found a way around all that.
But they're so easy all you do is you slide the thing over that says they can't use your PayPal, or whatever. So that's, I mean, that's amazing.
There's easy fixes for that.
It's super easy
sure.
fix, like 1 second. Right. That's it. Wow.
Yeah. Or how about that? Wasn't there that boy back east who ordered $5,000 worth of pizza recently?
Oh yeah.
Because he wanted pizza. So
or Amazon. If you have their iPad or your phone connected to Amazon, or the Amazon the speaker, they'll just start purchasing.
Yeah.
So have conversations with your children.
And they're not always going to be in your house, like we talked about. So we can have controls at home, but they're not always going to be there. So they need to understand that part too. I would add it's very important to talk again about have conversations with your whole family. What is personal information that's private versus things that you can share? Because you can say, I like pizza, but you can't say, I go to this pizza store to get it,
So a couple of points here then that we've shared already, but we'll see if we missed any. So checking for safety, using secure platforms, talking with your kids about what they should do to protect themselves. So, especially when they're young, saying, this is the kind of information you can share or not. If you feel uncomfortable, who's the teacher you could go talk to if you saw something on the computer, or, you can always come to mommy or whatever. Telling kids they should not share IDs or passwords as well. They just don't even know if they're filling out a form. Oh, I shouldn't share my phone number. I shouldn't share my birth date. So just literally talking, going through the list of these things with kids to help them to know this is okay, this is not okay with the internet. The second one is being wary of strangers. So I think someone here shared in the gaming, people may not be who they say they are. We need to tell our kids that because, sex offenders, traffickers, predators are on the prowl. Not sharing things that should be private. So talking to kids about photos. You probably don't want to put your pictures out there, because if they start to develop that habit, oh my gosh, I remember one time we had a camera at home and I was letting my daughter and her cousins play with it, and they were running around taking pictures at a family party, and I come back to look at the pictures, the digital photos, they're in, I think, elementary school. All of a sudden I see a picture of my nephew's bum. So they thought it was funny. Thank God they didn't know how to put this thing on the internet. They just thought it was hilarious, because we had never talked to the kids about the boundaries around images. Oh my goodness. So talk to kids about reporting inappropriate photos. Just having the talk is so important. This is the new talk that we have to have with our kids. And that privacy includes more than photos. Next slide. It could be your parents' names and personal info.
Yeah, I want to add to that. When taking photos, make sure everything in the background matters too. Because sometimes you'll take a photo and your address is on your house. And that's not that hard to look up on Google now. Especially with Street View, you can see what the house looks like, so exactly where it's at. So it's really important that there's nothing identifiable not only on the child, but also around the child as well.
Yeah, because you can drop a picture into Google search now, and it'll give you images of like that.
Oh yeah, you can
images
match
in
it.
there.
Right.
So
There's also the metadata, which
Yes.
is information of where it was taken, when it was taken.
Oh, yes.
So that's very good. I think you can turn it off on most devices now, but that's information that you don't know is there. So that's very, very important to make sure you have turned off.
Tom, I propose that we do a one-on-one video with you and some of this stuff with Daniel later. Get some PSAs out there. So stay tuned. I think we definitely should. How do you all model good behavior with your devices? What do you do?
I was just going to say, I will take full responsibility. I don't model always good behavior. And my children, I think, I'm going to say, thank goodness I have this now with them, but they call me out on it. Right. And Mama, get off your phone. Okay. You know what? Thank you for reminding me. It's over there. Right. I get reminded by them. So I'll own it.
See, you might end up changing your mind about that 18-year-old
I know, that's why I said I'll say it
now. Because when they're about 16 and they're like, you need to get off your phone. But no, I do not model the best behavior. But I will say this. We have this thing in our house where we don't want you to have like 2 AirPods in your ear, because when you put them both in, it sucks the air out of the room and you can't hear anything. And so I'll stand there and call a kid's name over and over again. It's like, dude, I know you heard me. And so, for instance, I'm texting my daughter saying, make sure you're dressed and packed when I get home because we have some stuff to do. She was like, I need to pack for what? I've only been talking about this for the last 2 weeks. But this is the kid that I have to fuss at about the 2 AirPods. So clearly she hadn't heard me. So I will say I model good behavior when it comes to that. I do not have both of my Beats or my AirPods in my ear at any time. But I will say my phone is with me. But also I run businesses, so I have to have, I can't live without this. So, but also I do need to have, a stopping point with the phone.
I just realized there is one thing that we do. Phones are not allowed. We eat dinner together every night, and phones are not. My husband and I, the phones are in the kitchen, and we're at the dinner table.
Yeah.
Every night.
Present.
And iPads, their iPads are not allowed either.
Oh, I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, I use it for work. I use it to communicate with my colleagues. I use it for my political activism. I use my devices a lot, but we don't ever have it at a meal. And another way I model is I try to use all of the security features that I can, and I encourage my kids also make sure that you have all your passwords set up, that it's not just a 1, 2, 3 password, because anybody can open your phone then. I make sure to tell them that I do those things, and I ask them to do it as well.
Some other child-proofing tips. Amber and I have done anti-bullying workshops for educators across Southern California, and cyberbullying is a big deal. So talking to your kids about treating others with respect is really important. Having talks with them about what does that mean to be responsible online with other people's pictures. In school, kids have their phones, they're taking pictures, and they can post them during the school day and start bullying other kids with those images. So just talking to them about how you expect them to respect other people, and then if they're feeling like they're being bullied or see someone who is, that they can come to you for help. And if you're not sure what to do, I always say you could go to Dr. Google and see what's out there for parents. But, talking to other parents is helpful. I've learned some things today from folks I knew that I had never thought about. What advice do you all have on childproofing the internet, or anything else that you think would be helpful for us moving forward with children who are our next generation? And Diana, will you go to the next slide?
For me, I think it's everything we talked about today is have make that conversation not like a conversation, like make it a normal thing to have, like a consistent thing. It shouldn't be like a one time and we're done. I checked that little box as a guardian or parent and I'm good. It's a consistent conversation to be had, whether a learning opportunity comes up, they made a mistake, we made a mistake, any chance you get is having those conversations with them. Also, I would go back to what Melissa was talking about, the bullying component. It's not, for me, the conversation with my daughters is not just about being able to really understand the differences between what is bullying and what is not bullying. And we define those very clearly in our home. And then also how to be an ally to those who are being targeted. So those are common words in our household, but also not just about respecting others, but respecting yourself as a person, as a human. How do you respect your body? How do you want you to be yourself to be presented? So having those conversations.
What other tips do you have for folks? And we'll share this last one here on checking in early and often, asking your kids what kind of messages they're sending and receiving and how they feel about them. I'd never thought of doing that with, I think this would probably be really good for the little kids so that you've created that kind of expectation and conversation early on. Asking about their favorite apps. I do this with my kids to figure out, what are you guys looking at nowadays? What's taking your time? Is that TikTok? And they're like, no, Mom, it's this new thing, and then I'll sit with them for a couple minutes to see, and then I kind of check out. It's a lot of monitoring. If your kids make mistakes online, try to handle the situation with empathy. I thought that was a really good tip because they are part of this new world. Mistakes happen. It's part of our workplace culture, that value of we might make mistakes, but we want to learn from them. Being online is really important in young people's lives today. They're using the internet to access learning materials. It's their way. And so using mistakes as a teachable moment, I think is a great tip.
So I want to touch on two things. One, what you said, Melissa, is very important about your kids, how you sit and you see what they're looking at. But then you check out. It's because you trust your kids and you can trust your kids that they're not going to abuse the system. And that really helps bring it right back to what you just said about giving them grace. You trust your kids. You know who you've given birth to, or who was, that was given birth for you, whichever side of the fence you're on. You know your kids, and you know who you've raised. And sometimes you have to say, you know what? I am going to see what decisions you make without me tapping. I know I can only say this because I have a 20-year-old, an 18-year-old, a 17-year-old. I've not always been like this. I was the tapper, right? But I had to learn. You can't always police and govern their decisions. You want to make sure that you trust them. You've raised them in a way where you can trust that they're going to make wise decisions. And if you're here at this event, you are already on the right path of raising kids that you can trust, because you got up at 10 in the morning on a Saturday. Let me tell you, okay, it's not easy to do, to get up, get dressed, and come get in your car, whatever form of transportation you use, right, to do this, right? So you're already on the right path. So I just want to encourage you with that. Social media is scary. The kids do make mistakes. They do make errors. They do have hardships. They do see things they should not see. They may see a friend get bullied. All those things. It's how are you going to handle them once that happened and show them grace throughout the situation.
I think another thing that wasn't covered here, which should be mentioned, is video games too. The chat rooms in most video games are pretty bad. Yeah. So they are definitely brutal. And another thing is a lot of times information is given out there too. So what they say there and how it's said is also very important. So monitoring video games and what they're saying is also important because those chat rooms are. Eesh.
Yeah.
I have a friend whose teenage son, all he does is video game, and that's his only friend circle. Or he's friends with folks through video gaming that he's never met. And somehow, I don't quite remember how this worked, but one of the kids, one of his virtual friends got access, or he shared his password or something. So this kid like took all of his points or money and used it for his own gaming. And then he was out of luck. He'd lost it all. And his mom worked with him of like, do we need to like go to the police for this or whatever? And in the end, the kid was like, I still want to be his friend though. This kid stole from him, but he was still like, this is my online friend. These are my people, right?
Oh, that's kind of sad.
Yeah. But now he's starting to make friends in person in a football team, but we'll see how that goes. But video gaming's huge. It's huge to his development the last, 3 years as a teenager living online. Jackie, you shared with us this resource. Tell us a little bit about it.
So Common Sense Media is a nonprofit organization that has a very big online presence. They use the internet to teach about safety for families and for educators. This is actually the education website. You can sign up either for the family or the educator website for free and access their resources. One tool that they have, and I made some copies of things, is that they suggest that you make a tech planner. So be deliberate and proactive about the use. So yes, have these conversations all the time, but maybe from the start, plan what are the devices that are okay to use? How do we use them? What are our password rules? What information are you allowed to share or not share? But to have that plan in place and make it in conjunction with the children. 0 to 5 is maybe a little young, but to talk about it with them older than that, definitely make the plan together so that everybody is in agreement about what is okay. And that can be a changing document, where we do. I love that thing about being that mistakes are, we all make mistakes, and being empathetic to our children about this. And those are our learning opportunities. And so we hope that when they're with us, we've made these decisions together. When mistakes happen, we discuss it, we overcome it, we do better. But so anyway, Common Sense Media this is some of their educator resources, and they have these different tools. They tell you, okay, we want balance in digital life, and then they have the little goofy guy that shows you to have balance, be cautious. They have all their different, and then they'll have some, they'll have like a coloring sheet or tips for parents, handouts if you want, if you're like in a classroom and you want to share them. Whatever you're looking for, you can search.
Do you know if it's available in Spanish?
Yes. Oh, yes. And I brought some of them in Spanish also. It actually has almost any language. It's easy, like when you click on which things to download, you can choose English or Spanish, but then you can also say other languages, and it has everything. So it translates it.
And it's cute. Each of the characters, represents some kind of value or idea around internet safety. So Feet talks about what we do and share online leaves a trail and tells a story of where we are. Feet helps kids about their digital footprints. And then you've got Be Kind Like Heart. So talking about respect. Next slide. Be an upstander like Legs, maintain a positive community is easy when we work as a team and support each other.
Yeah, and that's like being an ally to friends that experience bullying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Follow your curiosity like Head. The online world is full of info, and it's the perfect place for us to learn more about things that interest us. So again, we can learn from it. It's not all scary and awful, but there's a lot of scary and awful.
Yeah, but there's a lot of good. And one thing I wanted to bring up to that point is that, in libraries, we don't, at least in California libraries, we don't censor. So that we have all kinds of information, and people can access information here online, and we don't censor it at all. So we want everybody to have the information and have access to information, but we have to be smart about it and have, within our families, have our own guidelines for that. But I think that, we have to be careful about regulating what children see and don't see, it's a fine line to censorship, and we see in other states right now they're removing books and information. So who is the person to say what is good or what is bad? We have to be very deliberate about that and very thoughtful about it, I think.